Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Wednesday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. Just a reminder, if you have not yet left a rating and or review on either Spotify or Apple Podcast, it would mean so much to me if you did that. I am really working on getting guests on the podcast to just share their own knowledge, and that's really been a focus this last month. So today I actually have on Sarah. If you want to get connected with her, of course, all of her information will be linked in the description of today's episode. But Sarah is a master when it comes to supplements. The resources that she has over on her Instagram are incredible, and they've helped me so much, even when it comes to looking for a prenatal or what should you do before you even start on supplements. And what I really like about Sarah is her view is to do the foundational components first and then add in supplementation as necessary, or to use supplements to help support your body while you're implementing the foundations. She's not one that I see as just giving a supplement to everyone and anyone that maybe has some deficiencies, but really cares about the quality of product that you're consuming. And that's what I loved about this episode and just having her on. I selfishly wanted to have her on the podcast to talk about supplements because it is a world that I have dabbled into, but to really know the nitty-gritty of every supplement and what you're looking for on the packaging and what kind of validates a quality product versus a lower quality can be challenging, and it's hard for me even, especially now that I've added in blood work utilizing functional ranges with clients. There is sometimes supplements that I recommend, and I'm recommending them based off of personal experience and trust for the brand after looking at the research they've done. But there are still so many out there. And I think we've probably all fallen for a supplement that promises to do one thing and really doesn't actually do that. A big thing that we hone in on today's episode is that you can't go into any supplementation thinking that that will be the one cure for whatever it is you're dealing with, right? There are so many things that need to be done on a foundational level, which I'll continue to talk about and come back to, because before you even think about, and we talk about like a weight loss supplement, you even think about that, let's think about, okay, am I drinking enough water? Am I eating enough protein? Am I moving my body? Am I getting good sleep? Do I have boundaries? The foundations. And I know I talked about that on last week's episode. I do have a course called The Foundations, and I just share that with you because there is so much fluff out there that we think we need to buy and do, and really just knowing what you can utilize as a gift from God, right? Most of the foundational things are nothing. They cost nothing, if maybe a minimal cost, right? Of like getting some quality salt to add to your water so you're getting minerals. Then knowing how much water you actually need to be drinking. There are so many factors that play into it, but supplements can be a wonderful, wonderful tool when you know how to use them right and when you are implementing them in a way that makes sense for you specifically, which is why I will always say blood work, if it fits within your budget, is my number one recommendation. That or like an HTMA test, a hair sample to see what you're deficient in and what you need more of. So kind of enter into this podcast with that in mind, right? Thinking that can always be an option if that's something you're interested in. But really, again, I wanted Sarah on personally because I wanted to learn as much as I could from her. And I really feel like we could have dove into so many different avenues of this conversation around supplements. But hopefully today's episode gives you some clarity and leaves you feeling encouraged and inspired as always to take your whole body health into your own hands. So with that, let's go ahead and get into today's episode with Sarah. All right, so on today's podcast episode, I have on Sarah. So Sarah, thank you so much for being here and being willing to be a guest and just share more about your expertise.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me on.
Of course. I just want to start with you sharing more about yourself, maybe what you do now, how you got into it.
Yeah, no, I kind of fell into it by accident. So I got certified as a health coach like 10-ish years
Mhm.
ago. And that was just like through my own health things, I think like a very normal
Yes.
route. And I was like getting into holistic health and I was like getting the certification and I didn't feel ready to work for myself and like see people, but I wanted to like be in that world.
Mm-hmm.
So I wound up taking a job at a like big integrative medical office in their apothecary, which was mostly selling supplements.
Okay.
And then I got a little comfy and I stayed for years. And then by the time I left, I was like, I know all these things that like other people don't know. And then I realized I kind of miss supplements and I just decided to lean into the pivot and now I just do supplement stuff. And it's great.
Yeah. It's so needed too. So did you go to like college for anything to like put you in that type of job, or was it that health coaching certification that led you to that?
So that's kind of what led me to the that specific job. It's
Yeah.
really funny because I'd actually already seen a practitioner there because I was looking for like integrative,
Hmm.
holistic medical care here. Um, I do have a chemistry degree. So
That's
that's what I
helpful.
studied, and then I like went into my own like life crisis on what do I want to do with my life.
Hmm.
And then it snowballed, and I got into the health stuff, and then I doubled down on that. And was like, well, there's only so much you can do with a chemistry degree, so we need to do something else. And went looking in the health coach direction, and then, like I said, that got me into the door.
Yeah.
Had no intentions of supplements being a thing.
Hmm.
And then by the time like years passed and I learned too much and it was really interesting and you
Hmm.
get to know all the patients and all these different people and see what they can do.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's one piece of the puzzle. It's not everything, but it's really cool. And so then when I left, I decided I wasn't actually ready to give that up.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder how many health coaches there are out there that started with like, or that started that schooling when they were at a point where they're like, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. Because I
Mhm.
feel like I was very similar in that aspect of like, what the heck do you do after college with a health and fitness studies degree if you don't want to go to grad school? Okay, health coaching. Like, you have health issues of your own. You're
Mhm.
like, oh, I can actually fix these sometimes like with alternative medicine and then you start to get into it. That's really interesting. So what about supplements, I guess kind of like drew you in and is so interesting for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the like nerd inside me, I think finds like all the different like pieces
Yeah.
interesting. Um, but it's funny because I honestly like didn't know much about them when I
Mhm.
started that job. I literally remember there was an interview, right? Because it's a job. But then there was like this test, like there was this like on like printed off of Word probably like
Yeah.
test where it was like, what would you if someone came in for XYZ?
Hmm.
Because most of the people went through practitioners, but we were still open. Like you could walk off the street, or you could be a patient with just a immediate need, and you come in to see what we can help you with or something.
Right.
Um, and I remember like kind of answering the questions that I could, and then jotting notes on the side, hoping that like if they see my thought process, I would get
Hmm.
partial credit because I didn't actually know the answer. So it's really funny to look back on like
Yeah.
where I know I started.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, there were so many different kinds because we did like traditional stuff, but then we had a lot of different types of practitioners. So there was homeopathy, there was traditional Chinese medicine, there's all sorts of stuff. Not an expert in that by any means, but really, really interesting to like keep learning about them and like
Hmm.
seeing what a difference there is. Like nobody I'm not going to say that like nobody taught me anything, but nobody taught me what I now teach others.
Hmm.
Because a lot of that was just like trying to piece together why does this one work and this one doesn't?
Yeah.
What's the difference between these two?
Hmm.
Why is this one better than that one? Both on like a product level and ingredient level, but even a brand level, right? Like that makes a world of a difference.
Hmm.
And it's just like it's a fun puzzle. Like I know that it in and of itself is just like one little piece of the big puzzle,
Hmm.
but like if you're like I'm going to go add in supplements as a tool, there's like so many pieces
Yeah.
that I just think is like I think when you do the health coaching or you're some kind of practitioner or something like maybe this is just me, but some level of like trying to crack the mystery is
Hmm.
kind of interesting and like trying to like put it all together and make it make sense
Yeah.
and like find the right solution.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that there's a lot of that when it comes to picking out supplements because there's a million options.
Yeah.
And you're like, you eventually have to like send somebody home with one. And
Right.
how do you get to the one?
Right.
Um, And so I just think it's like really interesting to like how you have to think through it and like all the pieces to look at. Um, and then like I said, I think it's just partly the nerd in me that's like
Mhm.
science, like
Well, as a chem major, you have a little bit of that that's like into the scientific compound or whatever it is in the supplement, probably of like what's the compound in the supplement to make it work or make it effective or not.
yeah. Like I kind of wish like I had more, like I took some biochem, but I kind of wish I
Hmm.
had now it would be like, well, I would have more value in other things. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, there's like so much chemistry that maybe not everybody like needs to know, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes there.
Hmm.
And I think that it like not only made it probably a little bit easier to wrap my head around than it would maybe other people who worked there or do a similar thing. Um, that or it just like caught my interest more because that's already something that I find interesting.
Right.
That could have been the case, but yeah, no, I think they're cool. It's funny because I was like, all right, I'm ready to do my own business and like work and like help people with gut health. And then I stopped that job. I quit that job and was like, all right, we're gonna
Hmm.
go be a health coach. We like
Hmm.
set out to do this years ago. This is long overdue.
Hmm.
And I like started for like just like kind of side money, like helping other health coaches with supplements
Hmm.
because I saw people asking questions that to me had easy answers. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, duh, I didn't learn it in my coaching certification. I
Mhm.
learned it in this random job that like
Mhm.
nobody else has had this
Right.
experience that like other people didn't have.
Yeah.
So of course you don't know this. Um, and then I'm like, oh, I like this. This is this is fun. Oh no.
Well, and what you're doing is so necessary because even for me, it's like you don't want to make the wrong choice in what you recommend to somebody, but with the thousands, more than thousands of
Mhm.
brands out there, it's like, well, how do you find the right product for a person? I also feel like it's when people come to me for coaching and they're like, yeah, I went to a practitioner, they put me on these 9 different supplements. It's like, okay, after we look at blood work, how do we actually like break down like what do you need of the 9? I mean, at one point they thought you needed all 9, but it gets super overwhelming of like, were you given too many and your body, it's just it can be so confusing and so hard to navigate as a coach. So I feel like with what you're doing to have that support for coaches, so we don't necessarily need to be the experts in supplements, but you are that person that can help them navigate that. Is that still work that you do now, is like help coaches find what their clients need?
Yeah, so I'm like currently reworking stuff.
Hmm.
I had like temporarily put it on the back burner because I got involved in like what's basically the family business, thinking it was going to be a very, very temporary situation, and it is not. And so I'm like, all right, so supplement mastery
Hmm.
is gonna look different when it comes back, but it's coming back. But I still love like teaching on
Hmm.
Instagram, so like everybody can take something from it and all that. I think it's like a really easy, like when you are the practitioner, it's a really easy trap to fall into that you have to really catch yourself. Is
Hmm.
like, oh, you see this and you like put a supplement on it and
Yeah.
that and that and
Yes.
that. And it like doesn't necessarily serve the like your
Hmm.
client.
Hmm.
And same goes like if you are listening and just not working with somebody and picking things for yourself, like you don't need 15 things. Like
Right.
I am happy to be the one to tell you that if nobody else has.
Yes.
Like I really think that number one, most of them should hopefully be temporary, right? To like accomplish something if you're in a really disbalanced or unbalanced like state where you have things going on. I don't love the idea of being on 10 supplements for literally the rest of your life,
Hmm.
right? Like I don't want to have to take them. I don't want to have to buy them. Like I
Right.
don't
It gets so
want my body to
expensive.
have to need them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just overwhelming in like all
Yes.
possible ways.
Yes.
Um, and I also think that like when you are the practitioner, something that I try to teach is like where can you be clever? Like where can you like find the product that accomplishes two things
Hmm.
instead of using two products to
Right.
accomplish two things? Or like what's actually necessary. And that was honestly something that I had to do like in that job. Like people would see the practitioner, they'd get recommended a bunch of stuff and it would get rung up and they'd be like, oh God, like I was
Mhm.
not prepared for that total. And so you have to like figure out like that obviously was not solely my responsibility, but like
Mhm.
that was something that like you help them, you work with the practitioner as needed. Like, how can you take as little as possible and still get what you need out of it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like, still accomplish the goal, get the job done, but not have like overdone it in the process.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I
Mhm.
feel like that, I mean, that's just such a good mindset to go into it with. And even I always look at like, what are you eating? Are you drinking enough water? Like, there are so many, I always come back to it, foundational things that people aren't doing, but yet they go to a practitioner and get 9+ supplements to try like a protocol of 90 days. And I'm like, but you're not doing XYZ. Why would we think we need to add in this whole slew of supplements? I feel like that's like probably where my frustration lies within the industry because there's two things. It's like, am I actually taking a quality product? Was a quality product recommended to either me or a client of mine? Or like, yeah, are they not doing the basics and maybe don't even need a supplement, but for this period of time they've been put on one. Like it just gets really tricky, I think, with the whole industry. And I feel like there's probably a lot of flaws that you see within the supplement industry. But what would you say, like, if somebody was going to look at like two supplements and they're like, okay, these are both even like a turmeric supplement. Like, what would you look for on the packaging, on the product to know which one would be better than the other?
Yeah, for like let's say turmeric. So that's an interesting like 'cause it's so popular, right? It's like a good example. Really popular. It's like the number one thing that like every human will tell you from like I feel like you're like that's like drilled in. Like there's so many other options, but
Mm-hmm.
like that's the one that comes to mind first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um and it's also notorious for being very, like having very low bioavailability,
Oh.
meaning if you like just take the
Mm-hmm.
wrong product, it is expensive pee.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not going to get absorbed and it's not going to get used and
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to do anything. I literally remember there was like a lady who came into the apothecary and went over to like one of our like curcumin, like turmeric products and like just decided to share her story with me unprompted and was just like, "Oh yeah, like I wanted to save some money because they're not cheap."
No.
And went and like bought a different one somewhere else. And she's like, "I could feel the difference."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "So in the name of saving $10, you like lost." I'll pause. Like you still wasted the $30 you spent instead of
Right.
spending 40 or 50 or like whatever it was. Um, but yeah, so for turmeric, like number one, like you do have to look at the brand
Mm-hmm.
because if it's something like there's so many weird examples of like what's on the label isn't what's in the product
Mm-hmm.
or like them just like picking really poor quality ingredients to put in there. And so if you're fighting an uphill battle against that, like you've already lost.
Right. Right.
Um, but beyond that, like I would definitely look for like a turmeric extract, and I would want it to show how much curcumin or curcuminoids is
Mm-hmm.
in there. A lot of like if you look at good brands, like generally speaking, that will be the case, but you'll find some products that just show like turmeric powder, and you're like, cool,
Yeah.
I could have bought that, but also that's probably not gonna help.
Right.
Um, I personally, so uh I'll say that to try to counteract the bioavailability problem, which is like how well your body can like absorb and use it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will add black pepper extract.
Mm-hmm.
I had a rep years ago tell me that that's what they used in, and I'm sure not in all cases, but like has been used to induce intestinal like permeability, like leaky gut basically,
Mm-hmm.
in like whatever types of animals they did testing on,
Mm-hmm.
and when they wanted to test things to fix it. And
Interesting.
like that, I've looked into it and I can't find like one super definitive. I can find like a lot of things reinforcing that. And I also, it looks like it works in multiple ways. And it's not just irritating your gut to the point that the junctions expand and the product can get through more easily.
Right.
But that might be one of the ways. And so I always recommend like don't buy those.
Yeah.
Um, just because it's not worth the risk, but because you do still need to fix the bioavailability problem, I look for specific um, specific extracts. So there's There are curcumin, there's BCM 95, there's C3 complex. There's something that's like a very specific extract, not something super generic, that has the studies to back how improved their bioavailability is. Because usually they've like tinkered in somewhere, or it's like liposomal, or it's, like something has been done to make it a more effective ingredient.
Okay.
And so like if you can see some of those like names on the label instead of just curcumin or
Mm-hmm.
just turmeric or just
Mm-hmm.
turmeric extract, like we want more words. We want to know how much curcumin is in there because
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're talking about like the chemistry, like when we're talking about like herbs and botanical ingredients, there's so much happening inside one single plant, right? Like that's why we number one would recommend that you get that from diet when you
Right.
can,
Right.
because it's you get so much more from eating it than supplementing one single little bit of it.
Yes.
Um, but when it needs to be concentrated and really specific, and you're not gonna like chew on a root of turmeric
Right.
like every day or something,
Right.
um, we do want to know like the active compounds inside of it that seem to be most responsible for the certain benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much we want to know that there's a lot of that in there, right? Like
Yes.
that's the whole point of taking. What's the
Right.
point if this, and because it's nature and every batch might be like a little different when you grow, right? You like grow tomatoes and they all come out looking
Mhm.
different. Like there's variability that naturally happens and you grow it in different soils in different places in different times. The plant's going to turn out just a little different. So you just want to make sure that they're making sure there's enough of that in there because that's what's driving the results from that ingredient.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I have 600 questions to that answer. But one that I think of too is like you're talking about reading the label and looking at the label, but there's also not a lot of regulation around supplements. I mean, maybe that isn't true, but like, how do you know that what they're telling you on the package is actually legit? I know you've talked about the term and I've looked at like pixie dusting,
Hmm.
but can you explain that a little bit more of like, how do you actually know that that product contains what it says it does or doesn't?
Yeah, so there's obviously like some regulation. It's not like
Yeah.
none. But it like in our minds we would put this the most similar to like pharmaceuticals, right? It's a
Hmm.
pill to do something and it's regulated differently from that. And
Okay.
it's less strict than that.
Mm-hmm.
It falls under the same umbrella as like food. Um, and so like people should be doing testing. Um, but it is very much a like you have to jump through some hoops when you're like the first to market with a brand new ingredient or something. But you don't have to like things don't have to go through trials and get official approval, which to be fair, I do think it would look so different and we would have so little on the market if it had to. So I'm like, I always am so split because I'm like, unfortunately, the burden falls on you
Yeah.
to know who you're shopping from or you're recommending to others. But also, like, those options probably wouldn't even exist if they had to follow the same regulations that are
That's true.
set for like the pharma industry.
Right.
Um, so it's like a super mixed bag. Um, but yeah, so basically, testing is part of it. And I always recommend that if you're going to look into testing, because a lot of ones will tell, like they will say that they do it or they do third party testing. I feel like this is an unpopular opinion. I don't care if the testing is third party.
Mm-hmm.
I think that most testing is third party because most people don't have their own facilities. When
Right.
you're manufacturing somewhere else, like you are also sending it off somewhere else. But like I've been in facilities that like they do their own manufacturing. It is very controlled. These are the steps and you just like run it down the hallway to get
Yeah.
tested, right? You could do it as many times as you want. Like it's tested more throughout the process,
Mm-hmm.
not like once. And I don't think that that's bad. Like in my mind, like if I had $1 billion and like wanted to make a supplement brand, I
Hmm.
wouldn't be like, no, I'm not allowed to do my own testing. I'd be
Yeah.
like, no, I'm gonna have stricter testing than those places do.
Right.
Like I'm gonna be really picky about like what my standards are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that does come down to like some level of trust though, right? But so testing, whether it's in-house or third party, but the big thing is like what they test for.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find so many brands, like if you're gonna look see if they mention like what they're testing for. See if they give you COAs or like certificates of analysis
Hmm.
and actually click on it and look at it and like see what's in there because so often like there's a lot of brands will post theirs for like CBD products or like hemp products
Hmm.
and you can look and all they've tested is the amounts of the different cannabinoids. And I'm like, cool, but did you test for like heavy metals? Did you test
Right.
for mold? Did you test for pesticides? Did you test for like any of these other things? Because the testing that you are like so happy to share
Hmm.
doesn't show that.
Right.
Um, so like dig into are they testing for these different like I said, heavy metal contaminants, microbial contaminants, um, and then a lot of it varies on the ingredient, right? If it's a plant that's grown outside, pesticides are a great thing to test for. When you've got things like fish oil, we want oxidation tested for, and there's certain um like very specific contaminants of like a lot of concern that those get tested for. So it
Hmm.
varies a little bit. But that's something you can look at. And even if they don't want to share results, they'll like if you just ask like what kinds of stuff they test for, or a lot of the like about pages or quality pages or
Hmm.
anything like that on their website that talks about it, will give you some idea. And you can kind of tell the difference between the ones who uh like do a lot of testing. They'll like share more, like even
Hmm.
if they don't want to share the results, they'll share more about the process and
Hmm.
all of it. Um, because yeah, it's crazy that there have been lawsuits and news articles and all sorts of stuff that it's like we went to the store and we bought 50 XYZ and then we went home and we tested them. Not went home, but like, sent them
Yes.
somewhere and tested them.
Yes.
And 75% didn't have the dose or the ingredient or like there was
Right.
something years ago that was like herbal products and they're like we found house plants in them and you're like oh God, like I like as somebody with celiac disease, like
Hmm.
gluten can't immediately kill me, but I do think about everybody with allergies,
Yeah.
like environmental allergies, food allergies. Like if you're just putting random like who knows what in there, like that's
Right.
terrifying.
Right.
That is
Well,
horrible.
even
Like
like I'm sure you've seen like the Amazon dupes, like there's different companies that will sell. I saw
Mhm.
Thorn was an example of
Yeah.
like, here's the actual product and here's what you could buy on Amazon. It's like, what is in that? Like if you tested that, and I didn't look too far into it, but I'm sure it's terrifying.
Yeah, no, if I mean I always recommend like do not buy your supplements on Amazon. If
Right.
you desperately need to, make sure you're buying through the brand's storefront,
Yeah.
bare minimum. But even then, like, you don't know how long they've been there. You don't know what temperature they've been stored at. I've like
Mhm.
seen news articles where like workers are fainting because it's 115 degrees or something. And you're like, dude, what's happening to
Yeah.
your supplement in that
Right.
temperature? Like,
Right.
I've looked at the like seller requirements and like, unless you have like a refrigerated product that I think you have to pay extra for or something, like, you have to say that like, oh yeah, it won't melt up to like 100 and whatever degrees for it to be like
Yeah.
able to be on the shelf. And then
Well,
you
and
look
that
at
would alter
reviews.
the quality for sure.
Absolutely, like things are gonna go bad, things are
Yes.
gonna like probiotics will die, oils will go rancid, like everything
Yeah.
will just like lose potency. Like it's just crazy. And
It's
you don't like
insane.
it's not like, oh well, I'm ordering it in January and it's cold out. How long has it been there?
Right.
You don't
Well, and it could
know.
be coming from Arizona. Like it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter with the time of
Hmm.
year where you are. It's like it could be coming from anywhere.
Yeah, no, you've got like potential fakes, you've got storage, you've got like so many issues. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, if when stuff's on Amazon, if it's not sold by them, like the price, it's like some random, like literally some random person
Hmm.
just like probably got some wholesaler on a sale or
Hmm.
something and jacked up the price and it's like selling the money. Like if you wouldn't buy them out of somebody's, like the trunk of someone's car
Right.
on the side of the street, do not buy them from that same person on Amazon.
Yeah. It is
Like
so crazy.
equally
I know.
scary.
I know. There was a period of time before I like really thought too much about that and saw it be an issue where clients be like, "Oh, I found it for so much cheaper on Amazon. I'm just going to get it there." Versus like I utilize doctor supplements because I know they're very controlled
Mhm.
on how they keep their product. And I was like, "Okay, whatever." But like also we should be questioning why is it so much cheaper on one website and on the
Mhm.
other it costs on their official website it costs way more. Like we also have to question why is it so much cheaper?
Yeah, no, when you're as the person who like signed all the documents and like created the accounts and stuff like that, like they when you are the person with like a wholesale account, so in my mind, like that's like that sort of really good deal. And there used to be more brands that would like go buy their stuff on Amazon and use the lot numbers to figure out where they came from to shut down people's accounts because they're like, you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that happens as much anymore because more people have like embraced Amazon and had their own storefront. But usually it's like, you can't sell them on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Only I can sell them on Amazon, which
Yeah.
is like slightly better, but like not really.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's really silly to think how much where you buy your supplements from and not just like what brand and what
Mhm.
product, but like literally like what website,
Right.
store, like
Right.
factors in. But
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah. Oh, it does. Do you feel like, and this is obviously not getting into the scientific side of thing, but like by looking at a product, like if it's in glass, do you feel like there's typically a higher quality, even if you're just going to look at the face of a product? One's in plastic, one's in glass. Do you feel like that makes a difference?
I don't think so. As far as like knowing a lot of different brands, I don't think that there's like a general standard of like people of this quality put
Yeah.
them in this type of package. Like I don't see that consistently. The glass is nice. The glass is scary when it breaks.
Yeah.
As as the people who used to like unpack the things were like, we dreaded the day that like a broken fish oil was gonna come in a glass package, and it finally
Mhm.
happened. And we're like, oh my God, thank
It smells
goodness. Like it just
awful.
smells like lemon because I thought it was gonna stink like fish.
Yeah.
Um, but like not a fun time.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean like obviously as the consumer, you appreciate less plastic.
Hmm.
And there's like some times where like there's cool other formats, right? Like ones where they like individually pop out can make sense for things where you're like that basically to limit like air exposure. So you're not
Yeah.
like opening the package all the time. And like occasionally you're like, oh, that's a like it's more packaging, but at least it serves a purpose.
Hmm.
Um, or like people have gotten really into like single serve like goos and stuff
Yes.
lately. Which is like not I've like tried some, I don't know, not really my cup of tea, but like at least again it serves like a like it's a
Yes.
different thing than like a bottle that's just a different material.
Yeah, that's true.
I think of it like olive oil or something, where it's like you still keep it out of sunlight. You want dark glass if you're going for the glass bottle to keep out the sun and the heat and the all that.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's some like not counting the plastic side of it, but like common sense where it's like don't keep it in the bathroom next to your hot shower or
Exactly.
like things like that, you know, where it's
Right.
gonna like the environment is going to impact it, so to speak.
I don't know. You always think, well, higher quality must be in glass, but like you said, it's also just like how you're storing it too can determine, or like individual. I never thought about like if you have individual packets, like you are opening it at its peak freshness and then taking it right away, versus having it in a bottle that can get exposed to the air, I guess, when you open and close it. So yeah, that's interesting. I feel like something that I want to talk to you about too is because I know we messaged about this a little is like the GLP-1 supplements. And I don't know if you name drop companies. I really, nobody sponsors the podcast, so I have no issue. Like Array, big question mark on that one. You know, of like selling Metabolism
Mm.
Ignite or all these GLP-1 supplements. And I guess from your point of view, like when you see somebody marketing a product like that, what are your initial thoughts? Like if you look at the product, what are you looking for? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't love like, I honestly think some of the products got created after the craze, right? Just to jump
Yes.
on it.
Yes.
And I think that, like, there were probably a few products that were already around that they added that to the claims or they changed the name or something. Um, and it's silly because, like, I know that obviously when you actually take like Ozempic or something like that, like, the injection, like it is literally GLP-1 and it like clearly does things.
Hmm.
Like no question about that. But everybody's supplemental claims are just based on like, oh, this study showed it increased your own GLP-1 production by this percent. Like it's not even in the ballpark.
Hmm.
Um, and it's hard because like on one hand, like it might still be a perfectly good product, right? It might still be good for blood sugar or something like that because I think a lot of the GLP-1 stuff is either aimed at like food noise, cravings, like that kind of like hunger, that kind of stuff. Um, like specifically weight loss, which weight loss products are always big question mark because like
Yeah.
If there was one very successful weight loss pill, you would know. We
Right.
would all know. Somebody would be very, very rich right now.
Right.
And everybody would know the name. It does not exist.
Hmm.
Um, Other things can be supportive in different ways, depending on what's going on in your body
Hmm.
that is contributing to maybe like weight loss resistance or anything like that. And then the other one's like blood sugar. Like those are all the things that I feel like fall under that umbrella of like get the claim for
Yes.
GLP-1.
Yeah.
And like some of them are perfectly good, normal products. Like there are some good like bitters and probiotics and stuff like that. Like again, it's not a magic weight loss
Hmm.
supplement. But like if you set your expectations accordingly and like have looked at the ingredients and they still make sense for you, then like cool. And then some of them are silly. Like, so you mentioned the Metabolism Ignite. I see ads for that like all the
Yeah.
time. They don't make the product. Like, I am 99.9% certain that they
Yeah.
private label a professional brand and the professional branded product that they make that like is that same
Right.
like
Same
um
compound, maybe, or
right. It's the same company. Like I literally I've been to this brand's manufacturing facility and they're like, here's our little private label station where like we have our printer because basically they like work with like a designer and they come up with their own like name for the product and like branding, right? Like the like visual design parts
yeah.
of the label. Same bottle, same product, same everything. They do that. They have to buy it like kind of in bulk,
Hmm.
for them to like go through the hassle of private labeling it for you. Like they're not designing the product. They know nothing. You don't have to know anything about it. You didn't do the testing, you didn't do the formulating, you didn't do anything. And that's not like it's not like bad because it's still a good product, but I'm like, just sell the product.
Hmm.
Like, why do you need
It just
to,
makes it seem kind of fishy,
it
even
is.
if it's
It like
not.
just makes something that wasn't originally sketchy kind of sketchy.
Yes.
But so like I know what product that was, and it's sold as like I'd have to double check, but I think it was blood pressure support or something like that.
Oh my
To
gosh.
make their claims because you there are like rules so in terms of like regulations and stuff like
Right.
that like you can only make like structure function claims and you like there's annoying rules as to so that's why everything like tends to sound pretty generic
Hmm.
because of the rules
Right.
set by the government and but yeah so there's usually like more on like the sales page like that doesn't show up like on the actual bottle packaging and so they're like, oh, like in one study, this, so like all it takes is like them finding one bit of information in one study to like bank their entire
Right.
product claim on.
Oh
So
my
just fascinating.
gosh.
So I'm like, I know it's like a quality product because I know who actually made it, but I would never buy it thinking it's going to be as revolutionary and
Yeah.
effective as you make it sound.
Yes. Well, and I feel like, and I think I shared too, of like now I'm getting targeted with those ads postpartum. Like, look at my postpartum
Mm.
body went from this to this. And I think if you're looking at any supplement, never, ever, ever expect it to be the magic fix for any issue. Like, there I think that's what's so frustrating. And I had mentioned and shared a brand that I feel like a lot of women maybe purchase in our area. And it's like,
Mhm.
I've lost so many, like X amount of weight.
Right.
And you look at the people and it's like, okay, all these people are taking it. And this one person maybe lost 30 pounds, but I haven't seen that maybe be across the board. Like, I think that's where it gets so frustrating of like, it's all because of this one product. And I just don't think that's ever true. There are so many factors. Or we'd even talked about like, well, maybe it's lowering food noise or it's just filling up your stomach because it's like a powder you add to your water. So you're finally drinking enough water that you're not giving into cravings because you're hydrated.
Mhm.
Like those little things, like just never expecting one product to be the cure all.
Yeah, like they can be like really helpful tools.
Hmm.
And I think that it's nice to have things at your disposal that you can use, but like it does come back to like you need to do all the other stuff. And I always wonder, like I will literally like when you like scroll, you'll find the like the before and after, and they're like, put this keyword and I'll send you these products that I refuse to say the name of and I refuse to say the brand of because it's my MLM and I'm gonna like sell you in the DMs.
Yep.
Um, and like there's just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments that are just like that. I want that easy button right there. And I'm like, but what
Hmm.
else did you do? Because I saw one recently that was like also like I was like 2 months postpartum and I worked out 5 times a week. And then like 6 months later, I took this product and this is what I look like. And I'm like,
Hmm.
how much can you attribute? to the
To the
product and how
product.
much can you attribute to the other things you did.
Yes.
Um, and like I have had talks with people about like postpartum like hair loss. Like that's like, like a huge deal. And obviously like Nutrafol is like the brand that everybody knows. And
Hmm.
it's always funny to me. Every time that you like hear people's claims, I want you to just like stop and like think about it instead of just being like, oh, cool, it's recommended by XYZ or like something.
Hmm.
Because it's like, oh, the top one by a dermatologist. And I'm like, well, number one, how many others are there? And number two, that just means that when they were new, they bombarded dermatologist offices, people who don't know about supplements,
Hmm.
and they're like, this does the things. And they're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Like that's all that means. Or like
Yeah.
there's another brand that also, it's like the first one verified by USP. And I was like, the first doesn't mean the best. Doesn't mean
Right.
only. Doesn't mean the
Right.
latest. Does it like
Well, I feel like it's almost like a conflict of interest. Maybe that's not the right termage of like, or verbiage of like, if you go to the doctor and they're also selling a supplement company, like they're going to probably sell you that supplement company, even if there's all these other supplements that are maybe better for you specifically. They're making money from this company, so they're going to push that. Like, I think that's what's, yeah, it's kind of like, okay, recommended by a dermatologist or your physician or a PA. It's like, okay, but who, right? Like, what type
Mhm.
of I don't know, what kind of reputation did they have in the field anyway? Like, I feel like there's so many claims on supplements, and we think, like, oh, that must mean it's good, but that's not always the case.
And I will say that that's something where like I walked out of that job watching all the
Mm,
different brands, all the different reps, all the different practitioners, all the different patients. And like when you have like a broader view and you have information coming from different places, it's
hmm.
easier to like spot the holes
Hmm.
and the BS.
Yeah.
Um, because I will always say like every brand wants to sound the best. Like no one's gonna tell like if you're like, oh, but they say they're this, and you're like, cool, but like what brand says that they're bad?
Right.
Some
True.
of them
Or they wouldn't
are.
be right.
You know
Right.
that they are. Nobody
Right.
says that. Like,
Right.
you need to like figure out how to tell if they're telling the truth because they're all
Mm.
gonna say they're the best. Um, and I think that like favorites is okay to like lean on if you're like, well, I've looked so many times and
Hmm.
this is the one that I keep ending up. But like, I have my hoard of supplements, right, that I've like accumulated over the years.
Right.
Um, I think I've counted and I have like 30 or more different brands in there.
Oh
Like,
my
I
gosh.
don't think that like if you actually stop and on like an individual basis want to pick stuff out for people, that you're always gonna wind up with the same brand. Like,
Hmm.
absolutely not. Like, never.
Hmm.
Because everybody makes their own version and like discounting the ones that are trash, right? Like
Right.
not even considering those. Of
Right.
the good version, of the good options from all the different good brands, everybody makes a little bit of a different version,
Hmm.
different ingredient or form or dose or other ingredients or price or serving size or something. And I think it's like really, I understand it would be more convenient if one of them was like always right, but like realistically, it's silly to think that like one brand is somehow going to have the best version of everything for like
Hmm.
any particular person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I
if you're
think
actually looking, you know?
yes. Yes. And I like that point too, because I think I get stuck in that of like, well, I know this brand, like I've read up on their testing and I trust most of the products or all the products they'd put out. But like you said, that doesn't mean that their version of this is as good as another brand's version of the same thing. Like it's maybe formulated differently. I feel like it can get easy to be stuck when you find a brand. You're like, okay, but I do trust them. Let me buy everything. But I think it's a good idea to like keep your eyes open to other products and options out there. And do you even like have brands that you share and recommend, or do you really encourage like the consumer to first learn how to read a supplement to identify what you're looking for that's good or bad and then pick accordingly? Or do you have brands that you do lean on?
Yeah, no, I mean I do. I have like a ton that I cover in like supplement mastery just
Okay.
to like make things easier, but that also like opens up its own level of chaos when
Mhm.
you like obviously having all the options is like the worst. Too much.
Yes.
And having like one option is not enough.
Hmm.
But the more that you have to like compare, it just gets a little bit more overwhelming. And so I tend to reserve like the full range for like the practitioners where I'm helping and I'm teaching them how to
Yes.
go through all the stuff.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, some of the ones that so I also have stuff listed in, I can give you links, or if people just want to go to Instagram or whatever, I have like
Yeah.
a free guide. But what I'll say is like I tended to pick, so I came from the background of selling in a medical office. So we used a lot of professional brands because we actually did have like licensed medical providers on the staff to open up access, which health coaches can access most of the stuff, not all the stuff, but most of it. And so I just learned so much about those, and I feel like they're really interesting and effective and better at like different specific things that you might need to do like as a practitioner. But when you're just shopping for yourself, you're probably not putting yourself on like a crazy protocol to eradicate this and like do all
Right.
these things, right? So you can look at the basic brands. I also recommend some of the, like the more simpler ones to get started. So like Thorn is nice.
Mhm.
That's the one where I think we've all seen that one where like somebody bought one on Amazon and it
Yes.
clearly is entirely different packaging,
Yeah.
and is fake. Just again, like it's a thing that like I knew existed, but I don't think I'd like seen a side by side photo of, and it just blows your mind.
It's insane.
Um, but so like Thorn is like a nice, they have like very simple products and pure encapsulations, really nice, like clean, simple stuff. So like
Mhm.
nothing as crazy. But they have like a lot of variety. Um, I think Claire Labs, which is kind of rebranded to SFI Health, has like some just like different bits to kind of like round out. Like that's one of the beginner ones that I often will recommend.
Mhm.
Um, and like I don't know if you have full script. I have a full script linked in that one. If people like again need a safe place that's not Amazon to buy
Yes.
from, a lot of
Yes.
those nowadays will also let you buy directly from their website.
Mhm.
So I of your safe sources, always obviously encourage like see what deal you can get, right? Like where
Mhm.
you can get the best cost once you factor in shipping or a sale
Right.
or a whatever. If
Right.
that's through me, cool. If that's not, cool.
Yep.
Um, I know that they're not cheap, and that is like something that even honestly, like when you're looking at finding supplements for people and like picking the right things, like it's not just about like what is the best product. Like it is the whole picture. It is the ingredients and the forms and the doses so that it works, right? But it's also your lifestyle and your budget and your, the things that you exclude from your diet that the supplements also need to be free of. It's like all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so those are some like good ones that I just recommend just to start with. And then like
Yeah.
as you get more confident and a little bit more accustomed to stuff, like you can branch out. But
That's good.
yeah, and you start to like see more labels and like, pick up on stuff or keep learning. Or again, like if you're a culture practitioner, you can like come do supplement mastery down the line when it's open. But for everybody else, like you don't need to spend, like you don't need to go get training to do this, but it always is also helpful like
Yes.
when you're really doing stuff to like work with a practitioner
Yes.
who if you want support from the supplement side, like is good at that because not
Mm-hmm.
everybody is.
Mm-hmm. And would you say kind of like the first step to any supplementation would be like getting blood work done if you that's within the budget, or like knowing maybe talking to a different practitioner to see what you specifically need, but like have some sort of direction before you just like get on these websites and are like, oh, I have that issue, let me add to cart. I have that issue, let me add to cart. Like you really should maybe, and you can share more about that on that, like know what your body needs specifically first.
Yeah, I think it depends on like what you're supplementing for, because I think
Mhm.
when it comes to like consumer products that like anybody might get for themselves, sometimes it's just like simple enough that you don't need to, right? If you're like, I want, like, I have my little stash. I've been experimenting with different ones for like focus. Like,
Mhm.
that's not assuming that you haven't linked that to like a
Yes.
deficiency or something, right?
Yep.
That's just trying to accomplish a certain goal. And that's just like
Right.
fun ingredients on top to do that. So, like, you
Right.
wouldn't need testing for something like that
Yep.
necessarily. Not that you might, if you like did all the tests, find something that is linked to that somehow, for sure. Um, and like basic things, right? If you wanted to do digestive bitters or
Mhm.
enzymes or something, like maybe that'd be okay. But yeah, I mean, if you can, I think testing like doesn't hurt. I say that with the grain of salt of I know it costs money
Yes.
and I know
Mhm.
it
It's
can be a
pricey.
pain. So like I think
Right.
pick your battles. And I also think if you can just identify like what's going on, what you want it to help, like you can either just supplement alone based on that or go into testing based on that to like track, like figure
Mhm.
out, Because depending, like either a history of something or an inkling of what something is, then like you can, if you're like paying enough attention to your body and like on like in tune with it enough and can identify symptoms and experiment a little, like you may be able to do, and there are some things that are safer to
Hmm.
supplement with than others. And you
Right.
also might be able to be like, all right, so I'm gonna explore like maybe this is something and do it from the diet or the lifestyle
Hmm.
angle first. And if you're like, I think it's helping, let me double down in
Yes.
terms of a supplement or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, I'm always gonna recommend it's like not the fun answer, but if it's like, oh, what could you take for this? And it's like, well, you could take this, but you also could eat this or do this or something. And like, if you've already done that, or you're like, that is literally not in the cards, or that's going to take 6 months and I want something to take while I do that to make it a little bit easier that I'm on
Yep.
board. But it's not the easy, but it's not the like cheap magic pill. And like, there's different, like, even if you get like regular blood work or you do it yourself or something, like, there's different things you can find online that have a range of what the optimal is versus like what's going to spit out as normal.
Hmm.
Um, the plus to going through somebody is obviously that like it's not always just the what, it's the why.
Yeah.
And so you might be like missing something really big if all you do is like see a problem and like add a solution. If you have like enough different things going on, a lot of
Hmm.
times like an extra set of eyes just is really helpful. And
Hmm.
again, I know that like working with practitioners and doing testing is not in everybody's budget at all times. So I think, but also like blowing a bunch of money on random supplements
Random.
if you don't think they're going to
Yep.
help, like you could save that to
And
then work with
invested in,
somebody and like get
yes.
it done correctly the first time.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of have to pick and choose your battles and like
Yeah.
figure out what's right for you. If you want to do a little experimenting, if you think you know enough, you consume good content, you
Yep.
know some people, you would ever have a good idea. Or like I said, if it's more goal related or just symptom management, which like I know people are like no band-aids, but I'm like
Hmm.
no band-aids when you're ignoring everything else.
Yes.
Band-aids on top of doing things, I feel like is okay. Like I'm okay with you making the journey less terrible than it needs to be. Like that's
Hmm.
a good
Hmm.
use of supplements in my mind.
Right. And what I like about supplements too is it's like sometimes it's a condensed form. Like I always give clients like a list of like these are foods and the amount of that in that food, but you might need 4 cups of grape juice to get the same amount of like chromium was the one I was looking at. It was
Mhm.
like, okay, well, is it realistic to have 4 cups of grape juice and does that make sense within your diet and with blood sugar? Like probably not. So supplements are nice. Like I think, yeah, like you said, you're looking at what it is and then in addition to. It's not always just a supplement on its own.
Right. And you can like apply stuff in whatever steps you want. Like I used to be a vegetarian and at some point had like my hands would go numb a little
Mm,
bit too easy. Like sometimes right you sit on it and they fall asleep and that's normal, but like
right.
a little bit too easily. And wound up like basically using like B12 shots that was
Hmm.
just like off a free option. It was a whole situation.
Hmm.
Um but so like if I knew that, like then you could and you're like, this is helping.
Yeah.
Now you can go and try to make some
Yes.
more intentional diet
Yes.
choices so that you don't need it. Or just buying the first thing that you see an ad for that mentions some of the right keywords. Like that level of shopping is not going to serve you well.
No. Well, and it's hard too. Like, I think that's where, like, if you're given 9 supplements to take at one time, like, how do you know what is actually helping you of the 9? Do you really need to take all 9, or is it the B12 supplement that's doing a lot for mood and energy, but your omega, or not, I wouldn't say omega, but a different off
Yeah.
brand is like, maybe you don't really actually need that one though. And it's like, then you can't really narrow down what product was working, which can get really difficult.
Yeah, if you're doing a lot of like super different stuff, then I
Yeah.
feel like that like is kind of fair. But even then, so it's funny because it goes both ways. When you
Mm.
start all the different things at the same time, it's hard to tell what's working. But if you run into problems, it's also hard to tell what's to blame. The
Yeah.
amount of times
So
I had
true.
had people come back with like 3 different products that they started all at the same time because they were recommended during the same visit. And they're like, I had this bad reaction. And now they're unwilling to take any of those 3 because they
Hmm.
have no idea which one it was. And it could be any one and they don't want to do it again.
Hmm.
And like 2 of those could have been really good for you. And like one clearly was not right, but missed that because you now are like afraid to take them. And it's also like really helpful information. I feel
Hmm.
like to like understand like what isn't working for you. Um, but yeah, no, doing everything all at the same time. And I also think that this goes for like supplements that are blends where there's a
Hmm.
lot of different ingredients in there. Like I look at some and I'm like, if you have tried different things and you can't figure out what works, or you want like one thing and it's not super expensive, and you're like, I just want to try hitting it from some different angles, I
Hmm.
think a blend with a lot of different things can make sense.
Yes.
But I also think that if some of those ingredients are cheap and some of those ingredients are expensive, and you take it and you're like, this works, this is great, I
Hmm.
think that that's like the risk because now you're going to want to just keep taking that. But what if it was the cheapest ingredient in there that was
Hmm.
working for you? If it was the
Right.
most expensive, then it is what it is, right? Like you're not
Right.
going to save money switching it around. But like
Right.
if you had tried the cheap one first, maybe that would save you however much per month
Exactly.
or whatever.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. There's so much out there, and I've had you on for now an hour. We've been talking. I'm like, okay, we've like touched the tip of the iceberg, but I feel like the supplement mastery, something
Hmm.
whenever you launch that, like
Yep.
post it everywhere. So well, and also so I see it because I need to get into that and learn everything from you. And I would also say, I don't know if you just open it up to coaches, but I think anybody who's like, okay, this is an interesting conversation and I want to know more. Obviously, like you have great resources on your Instagram, but can you share like where people can find you, get connected with you, and other things that you offer?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to build something. I have to figure out like exactly precisely what it is for people who are just interested in supplements for their own benefit, right? Who aren't using it in a business setting, who don't have all the like access that coaches and professionals do,
Hmm.
but like still are interested in supplements and want to learn more and get better at them. So definitely follow anyways, and we'll see
Hmm.
what happens on the to-do list somewhere. And I love chatting with people in the DMs too. So if it's like a question and people like I don't have something to sell you,
Hmm.
but like I'm still happy to like talk to you and like
Yeah.
give some advice, right? I'm not gonna be like, here's everything that you need to take, but like we can
Right.
chat.
Right.
Um, so on Instagram, I'm supplements with Sarah. Sarah has an H. And yeah, I don't really have like an interesting like I think there's an old sales page up on my website. I need to
Mhm.
like edit that. But so Instagram is where it's at.
Perfect.
Content. But like I said, even if I like haven't posted something or there's nothing on my stories, like I'm always somewhere near my phone.
Hmm.
Like let's be
Hmm.
realistic. And so like if you like send a message, I'm happy to chat like when when I have like a second.
Yeah.
Um,
Perfect. And I'll link that all in the description of the
mhm.
episode too, so people can get connected with you easily and see all the information you have on there to
Yeah,
share.
and there's the it's on Instagram, and I'll also probably just give you the link. There's a free
Perfect.
beginner's guide to buying better supplements that has like a few of those brands listed, the
Hmm.
site that like I would recommend purchasing off of that is like a good like
Perfect.
everything is safe, comes from the real manufacturer, is stored properly, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And then it also just like has some other tips on like ingredients where if you look at it, giant red flag, like that's a
Hmm.
no, stuff like that. So that's like a
Okay.
good resource to check out if you're interested.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll put that in the description. But Sarah, thank you so much for being on. I feel like again we could have talked so much longer and like touched the tip of the iceberg, but if you're listening and you're interested, like utilize all of the resources that you have on Instagram and everywhere else because you share some really good things. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's funny because supplements feels like it's like one small piece of the puzzle, but when you zoom in on it, there's just so much to
Oh,
it.
so much. Yeah, I agree.